Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Unman Bhattacharya. Coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets business leaders in Cyprus, terms Cyprus as the gateway to Europe, points India has a stable polity and clear policies, Gift City Pact and financial UPI connectivity agreed upon. On day 2 of Cyprus visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold bilateral talks with President Nikos Christodoulidis in Nicosia. Discussions on key sectors expected to get a ceremonial reception. Israel and Iran attacks continue as leaders warn of further retaliation. US hopes the two countries can strike a deal. Indian students in Iran being moved to safer places as the conflict deepens. French president touches down on Greenland in solidarity with territory eyed by Trump, says that the entire European Union is in agreement that the Danish autonomous territory is not to be sold, not to be taken. And the Indian Met Department issues yellow alert for the western parts of the country, predicts heavy rains, while Delhi is likely to experience some respite from the heat wave. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Cyprus on the first leg of his three-nation visit to Cyprus, Canada and Croatia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Sunday participated in a business roundtable in Limassol, a city in Cyprus, with Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulidis, and called for strengthening bilateral cooperation in areas such as trade, investment and defence. Prime Minister, who arrived in Cyprus on Sunday, addressed business leaders from India and Cyprus at the meeting. While addressing the business meeting, Prime Minister highlighted India's stable political environment, transformative digital revolution of the past decade and opportunities for Cyprus to collaborate through initiatives like the Unified Payments Interface or UPI.
हमने ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस के साथ साथ ट्रस्ट ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस उस पर भी उतना ही बल दिया है। आज भारत में स्पष्ट नीति है, उसके साथ साथ स्टेबल पॉलिटी भी है। 6 दशकों के बाद ऐसा हुआ है कि एक ही सरकार लगातार तीसरी बार चुन करके आई है। भारत की डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड और टैलेंट से आप भली भांति परिचित हो और आपकी बातचीत में भी इसका जिक्र हुआ है। पिछले 10 वर्षों में डिजिटल रिवॉल्यूशन आया है, फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन एक मिसाल बना है। यूनिफाइड पेमेंट्स इंटरफेस यानी यूपीआई के माध्यम से आज विश्व का 50% डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन भारत में होता है। फ्रांस जैसे कई देश इससे जुड़े हैं। साइप्रस को भी इससे जुड़ने के लिए बात चल रही है और मैं इसका स्वागत करता हूं। भारत में फ्यूचरिस्टिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के विकास में हम $100 बिलियन से अधिक का सालाना निवेश कर रहे हैं।
Prime Minister Modi also said that India believes in balancing economy and ecology and is committed to a clean and green future. He also welcomes the Cyprus Stock Exchange NSE agreement to invest in Gujarat's Gift City.
भारत इकोनॉमी और इकोलॉजी के बैलेंस में विश्वास करता है और उस पर हम प्रतिबद्ध हैं। एक क्लीन और ग्रीन फ्यूचर का रास्ता बना रहा है। 2030 तक हम 500 गीगावाट रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी के टारगेट को और बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। ग्रीन शिपिंग के विकास और 2030 तक रेलवे को 100% कार्बन न्यूट्रल बनाने को और तेजी से काम कर रहे हैं। एआई मिशन, क्वांटम मिशन, सेमीकंडक्टर मिशन, क्रिटिकल मिनरल मिशन, न्यूक्लियर पावर मिशन हमारी ग्रोथ इंजन के नए इंजन बन रहे हैं। मुझे ये जानकर खुशी है कि साइप्रस की स्टॉक एक्सचेंज और एनएसई ने मेरे होम स्टेट गुजरात में गिफ्ट सिटी में सहयोग पर सहमति बनाई है।
NSE CEO Ashish Chauhan, while speaking about the business meeting with PM Narendra Modi, mentioned that out of the many MOUs signed between the two countries, the most important MOU signed is the one between Cyprus Stock Exchange and NSE, which not only highlights relations between India and Cyprus on the political level, but also on the business level.
One of the more significant MOUs is the collaboration between the GIFT City NSE International Exchange, which is an international finance service center, and the Cyprus, which itself has emerged as a financial service center, to do dual listing, get European companies to list on both exchanges, do research, and also do joint development on many products. So it's a great occasion that Honorable Prime Minister himself has decided to visit Cyprus and increase on a broad brush basis the relationship between two countries, not only on political level but also on business levels.
Following the business roundtable with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, business leaders praised the strengthening of India-Cyprus relations and said the event highlighted the potential for investment and trade between the two nations with a focus on sectors such as fintech, technology and renewable energy.
When you get such political support from the Prime Minister himself, I think that's very exciting. I think we have a very old history that we have with the Hellenic world, between India and Greece and Cyprus, which goes back thousands of years. You know, we've seen coins from Greece which have been discovered in India. We have Indian trade with them. So I think the trade is very ancient, and I think now that we have such a great, I would say, focus and impetus given by our Prime Minister, I think trade and business will only grow and increase.
And we want to promote the idea that Cyprus and Greece could become gateways of Indian companies which want to do business in Europe. We have signed an MOU with NPCI to enable UPI in Cyprus. We have also done the same thing for Greece. And Eurobank is opening a rep office in Mumbai to promote the business between the three countries. We have applied for that in RBI, and hopefully before year end, we should celebrate the opening of our office in Mumbai.
We are presenting 32 opportunities for doing trades, and 4 of them are strategic MOUs that have been signed, which will lead to development, capital market, investor interest, benefit both the countries. The 32 deals that we are talking about is across pharma. We're talking about diamond industry, real estate, industries, financial markets. So it's very interesting phase that we are getting into.
Mr. Modi's visit to Cyprus is a great honor, and it's very important for us as we position Cyprus as a hub between the EU, Middle East and the East. We're at the eastern frontier of the European Union, and Cyprus is the base for many Western companies investing into India, but also is the gateway for many companies from the Middle East and from the East who want to access the European market. And we want to align ourselves with India's ambitions in this regard.
Later, Prime Minister Modi shared on social media platform X, and I quote, "Boosting business linkages, President Nikos Christodoulidis and I interacted with leading CEOs in order to add vigor to commercial linkages between India and Cyprus. Sectors like innovation, energy, technology and more offer immense potential. I also talked about India's reform trajectory in the last decade." On Monday, Prime Minister Modi will hold formal bilateral talks with President Christodoulidis in Nicosia. Discussions are expected to cover key areas such as trade, investment, education, digital cooperation and regional security. DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh reports.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting the Mediterranean island nation of Cyprus. Day 2 of the visit will lay the stage for more formal engagements. The day will begin with a ceremonial welcome for Prime Minister Modi at the Presidential Palace in Nicosia, that's the capital of Cyprus. Thereafter, the two leaders, Prime Minister of India and President of Cyprus, will hold delegation-level talks. Gamut of issues that the leaders will be looking at: trade, investment, technology, innovation, the ways to boost people-to-people connect and ties. There are a host of issues of international geopolitical importance in which the two nations converge in a very significant manner. Also, thereafter, Prime Minister would be visiting an important historic center in the municipality of Nicosia. The place holds great significance for the locals in Nicosia and people in Cyprus at large. One of the final engagements for Prime Minister in Cyprus would be a special banquet hosted in his honor by President of Cyprus. Thereafter, Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be en route to Canada, the second leg of his three-nation visit, to attend the G7 summit. With camera person Yogesh, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Cyprus.
World leaders began arriving on Sunday in Canada for the G7 summit for a 3-day gathering in the mountain town of Kananaskis. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney had designed an agenda aimed at minimizing disagreements within the Group of 7 club, which includes Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the United States. Carney says his priorities are strengthening peace and security, building critical mineral supply chains and creating jobs. But issues such as US tariffs and the conflicts in West Asia and Ukraine are expected to feature heavily during the summit. Trump has praised Israel's strikes, noting it used US weapons. European powers have been cautious and refrained from criticizing Israel. Trump is visiting Canada despite his mockery of the United States' northern neighbor, which he has said would be better off as the 51st state of the United States. The ongoing Ukraine-Russia war will also be up for discussion at the G7. Leaders who are not part of the G7 but have been invited to the summit by Carney include the heads of state of India, Ukraine, Brazil, South Africa, South Korea, Australia, Mexico and the UAE. Ukraine's Zelensky is also taking part. As a summit host, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has decided to abandon the annual practice of issuing a joint statement or communique at the end of the meeting. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said New Delhi is eager to represent the Global South on the world stage, acting as a bridge between different countries.
We've been an outreach country in the G7 for many years, and I think it brings benefits to the G7. So in this case, you could see clearly there was a keenness to have us there. India, to my mind, is has got a particular value, especially in recent years, that we have the ability to work with different countries in a way without making any relationship exclusive.
In an interview to the news agency AFP, the minister said India had been in favor of direct talks between Russia and Ukraine to end the conflict since 2022. He also said that sanctions such as those against President Vladimir Putin's government did not work.
We do believe that there has to be dialogue, there has to be diplomacy. And if there is diplomacy, the parties concerned need to talk to each other directly, because that was not always the case before. We don't think a solution will come from the battlefield. We think eventually people have to sit on the table and negotiate this. So we very much support the idea of negotiations and direct negotiations.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. 4 dead and 51 injured in a bridge collapse in Pune. Case filed against 2 officials of Aryan Aviation, the company that operated the helicopter that crashed in Uttarakhand's Rudraprayag district. India's Home Minister Amit Shah reviews preparations for the 16th census with officials.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. The Gazette notification for the census is being issued today. Home Minister Amit Shah reviewed preparations with the Union Home Secretary and senior officials in New Delhi on Sunday. This census is the 16th census since the beginning and 8th after independence. It will be conducted in 2 phases. In phase 1, house listing operation, the housing conditions, assets and amenities of each household will be collected. Subsequently, in the second phase, population enumeration, the demographic, socio-economic, cultural and other details of every person in each household will be collected. For the first time, the census includes caste enumeration. 34 lakh enumerators and supervisors along with 1.3 lakh census functionaries will carry out the operation using cutting-edge mobile digital devices. The ensuing census will be conducted through digital means using mobile applications. Provision of self-enumeration would also be made available to the people. Very stringent data security measures would be kept in place to ensure data security at the time of collection, transmission and storage. Updates on the Ahmedabad plane crash now. A total of 80 victims of the tragic plane crash have been identified so far through DNA matching, including former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani. Of these, the bodies of 33 victims have been handed over respectfully to the relatives. The victims whose mortal remains were handed over were from Ahmedabad, Vadodara, Kheda, Bothad and other places. A large team of forensic experts have been working to identify bodies of those killed in one of the worst aviation disasters in India by matching DNA with samples collected from their relatives. The last rites of former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani, who lost his life in the tragic plane crash on June 12, will be performed on Monday. The state funeral of former Gujarat Chief Minister will be held with full state honours in Rajkot. The state government has also declared a one-day state mourning in his memory. The body of former Chief Minister was confirmed after the DNA testing. Back at the crash site, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau continues recovery and analysis efforts. Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, Dr. P.K. Mishra, visited the site on Sunday and was briefed on developments by the Director General of AAIB. He commended the swift and coordinated efforts of both state and central agencies in managing the crisis. Boeing officials also visited the crash site on Sunday. DD India's Meghna Dev now joins us from Ahmedabad for more on this. Meghna, the last rites of former Chief Minister Vijay Rupani will take place today. Is Gujarat and particularly his hometown Rajkot set to bid him a final farewell?
Yes, obviously it was a very devastating past few days for obviously the Rupani family and other families who lost their loved ones, their near and dear ones in this tragic plane crash. When the body was identified by DNA testing, after that, former CM Vijay Rupani's mortal remains have been handed over to the family. And what we are getting to know that they will be reaching Rajkot via road today, and after that his final rites will take place. Before that, his mortal remains will be kept at his place, where there are people who can come and pay their final respects to him. Today there is a state mourning that has been announced across the state to pay tributes to him. Besides, what we also see that the DNA testing is proving very, very crucial, because about 80 samples have been matched, and 33 bodies have been handed over via DNA testing. So it is proving very crucial for identification. Remember, Munmun, that we have been speaking about how the bodies are severely charred, and the identification process is getting even complex because of the situation of the mortal remains, the situation of the bodies. So that is making this process even complex for the forensic science team. But it is going on very swiftly. We yesterday also saw Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, Dr. P.K. Mishra, visit the accident site. He also visited the hospital, the civil hospital, the BJ Medical College, as well as he also visited the FSL, the Forensic Science Laboratory, where all the procedure is being done.
Meghna, you told us that there are several complications in the DNA matching which are now being faced. Is there any timeline that officials are giving you on how long this process can take? Because this is something which also has a lot of emotional value for the family members of those who've died in the fatal plane crash.
Munmun, as we speak, we definitely know that after the matching, the mortal remains will be handed over to the family members. So this is all that at least will give some closure to the grieving families. But what we see, as you asked me, how much time does it take? It depends on the kind of sample that the forensic team has been able to gather. What we saw yesterday at the DNA laboratory, that there are a number of labs where these samples are taken. The process is a very lengthy process. It comes to the DNA lab, where there is the sample is collected, the profile is extracted. After that, it goes to another lab where the quantification is done to ensure if there is a small profile that they have got, to how to amplify it. There are other processes like PCR, gene isolation, different processes that the DNA has to go through, and after that the matching takes place. So it is extremely lengthy process, but the only aspect that is helping the forensic science teams is that some of the DNA samples the people have got a good profile of the DNA sample that makes it easier for them to match it. But in cases where the body is severely charred, there is hardly any DNA sample that the forensic team is able to extract. It becomes extremely difficult. So it can take up to 72 hours also. So this is a lengthy process, but the process can be shortened if there is a good DNA sample that the forensic team is able to procure. Now, when we also know that the DVR and the cockpit voice recorder has also been obtained yesterday when the principal secretary visited the AIB. The AIB DG did brief him about the situation. He briefed him about at the crash site what has happened, how the evidence is being collected, how the investigation is going through. But the principal secretary also advised them that first we have to make this a priority, that the mortal remains are clearly identified. As of now, while we speak, there are 33 bodies that have been handed over via DNA identification. 80 of the DNA samples have been matched. Few of the families are on their way. Last night also, the 2 mortal remains were expected to be transported via road to their homes. 80 DNA samples being matched. A few of the families will be reaching today to collect the mortal remains. 8 of the bodies have been identified physically. So if we look at the entire number, the numbers crossing 40, but it's still a long way to go, because obviously we know a large number of people have lost their lives in this crash. And not only talking about the people who were on board, but also the other people who are the students, especially the locals who were there at the hostel mess, who have also for whom this crash has also proved fatal.
We'll leave it at that. Meghna Dev reporting from Ahmedabad. Moving on to the western Indian state of Maharashtra, where 4 people died and over 50 were injured when an old narrow bridge over the river Indrayani in Pune district collapsed on Sunday. Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis announced that the state government will provide a financial assistance of 5 lakh rupees to the families of those who lost their lives in the bridge collapse incident. Additionally, the state government will also bear the cost for the medical treatment of the injured. Meanwhile, the damaged section of the bridge had been removed from the river by late night while the search and rescue operations are on. But the rescue teams are facing the challenge of ongoing rainfall. Further investigation into the cause of the collapse is still ongoing. The bridge, which was around 30 years old, connected nearby villages and was a common route for locals and tourists. Following the helicopter crash in Uttarakhand's Rudraprayag district that claimed 7 lives, a case has been registered against 2 officials of Aryan Aviation, the company that operated the helicopter. A case has been filed against the accused under Section 105 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and Section 10 of the Aircraft Act. According to Ministry of Civil Aviation, the preliminary indications suggest that the probable cause of the crash may be controlled flight into terrain, where the helicopter reportedly airborne despite poor visibility and extensive clouding at the valley entry area. The exact cause will be determined through a detailed investigation by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. Meanwhile, Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami has briefed Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Union Home Minister Amit Shah and Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu on the tragic helicopter crash in Rudraprayag. During the conversation, the Prime Minister expressed deep condolences for those who lost their lives in this tragic incident. The Chief Minister, in a social media post, stated that the central leadership has assured all possible assistance to the state government. A Royal Navy F-35B fighter made an emergency landing at Thiruvananthapuram Airport on the night of 14th June this year. The jet was flying from HMS Prince of Wales near Indian airspace and had Thiruvananthapuram marked as its emergency airfield. After declaring the emergency, it was tracked by the Indian Air Force and declared to land and cleared in fact to land. The Indian Air Force is now helping with repairs and the aircraft's return. The multinational peacekeeping exercise Khan Quest 2025 is underway in Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, hosted by the Mongolian Armed Forces in partnership with the US Indo-Pacific Command. The exercise brings together military contingents from 24 countries to enhance interoperability and refine peacekeeping skills under the United Nations mandate. Khan Quest aims to promote military-to-military cooperation, mutual learning and multinational coordination in peacekeeping operations. The exercise includes a range of training activities focused on UN peacekeeping operations in conflict-prone zones and civil-military coordination in humanitarian operations. India's participation highlights its rich experience in UN peacekeeping operations and reflects its growing strategic partnership with Mongolia. India has dispatched the final batch of machinery for passion fruit processing to Suriname under the SEEDS initiative. It stands for Supply of Equipment for Efficient Development of SMEs. The move aims to uplift Suriname's small businesses and farmers by boosting production and income. India's External Affairs Ministry shared the update, highlighting that the project will deepen India-Suriname ties. With this support, Suriname's agricultural sector is set for growth, fostering economic progress and stronger international collaboration. On to weather news now. The India Met Department issued weather alerts for the western parts of the country. Warning of heavier downpours has been issued. The Weather Department sounded a yellow alert for Mumbai, forecasting heavy showers at isolated places, and an orange alert for neighbouring districts, which are expected to receive heavy to very heavy rainfall. A yellow warning of thunderstorm, lightning and gusty winds with speed of 40 to 60 km per hour has been issued at isolated places in Himachal Pradesh's Chamba, Kangra, Kullu, Mandi, Shimla, Solan and Sirmaur districts till Wednesday. The southwest monsoon is likely to arrive in Jharkhand between June 17 and 19, with forecasts for widespread rainfall during the period. A yellow alert for heavy rainfall has been issued for Monday in some pockets of southwest and central parts of the state. Delhi is likely to experience some respite from the heat wave, as no heat wave conditions have been forecast. Temperatures are expected to range between 35 and 41 degrees Celsius. During the day, skies will remain partly cloudy to generally cloudy throughout the week. Light to moderate rain, thunderstorms and lightning are likely on most days. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Israeli strikes destroy infrastructure belonging to the Quds Force, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Iranian military in Tehran. Suspect in Minnesota lawmaker shootings detained on Sunday. Residents of Lisbon protest against the negative impact of over-tourism on their daily lives. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munmun Bhattacharya. A recap of the top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets business leaders in Cyprus, terms Cyprus as gateway to Europe, points India has a stable polity and clear policies, Gift City Pact and financial UPI connectivity agreed upon. On day 2 of Cyprus visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold bilateral talks with President Nikos Christodoulidis in Nicosia. Discussions on key sectors expected. PM to get ceremonial reception. Israel and Iran attacks continue as leaders warn of further retaliation. US hopes the two countries can strike a deal. Indian students in Iran being moved to safer places as the conflict deepens. French President touches down on Greenland in solidarity with the territory eyed by Trump, says that the entire European Union is in agreement that the Danish autonomous territory is not to be sold, not to be taken. And the Indian Met Department issues yellow alert for the western parts of the country, predicts heavy rains, while Delhi is likely to experience some respite from the heat wave. Updates on the West Asia conflict now. The Israeli military said on early Monday that it struck surface-to-surface missile sites in Iran, its latest move in 3 days of escalating conflict between the rival states. Earlier, Iran launched a new barrage at Israel on Sunday evening with an explosion seen in the coastal city of Haifa. Israel said it began another series of strikes on military targets across Iran amid international pleas for diplomacy and de-escalation. Air warning sirens were activated in multiple areas across northern, southern and central Israel, as well as in the occupied Golan Heights, sending residents to shelters. Loud explosions were heard in Tel Aviv and other cities also. The current escalation was triggered by Israel's deadly surprise strike targeting nuclear facilities across Iran on Friday. The attack killed dozens of senior military officials, nuclear scientists and civilians in Iran, and triggered retaliatory missile and drone attacks in Israel. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has promised a strong response to Israel's strikes, calling them a foolish act that will not go unanswered. During a cabinet meeting in Tehran, Pezeshkian warned that Iran will take even tougher action against Israel if attacks escalate. He spoke after both sides launched fresh attacks on each other overnight into Sunday. Pezeshkian said Iran's responses will grow more decisive and severe if Israel's hostile actions continue. Iranian strikes overnight hit residential buildings in Israel, killing at least 10 people. Meanwhile, speaking on the U.S. news channel Fox News on Sunday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel strongly suggested that Israel has killed Iran's intelligence chief Mohammad Kazemi in an aerial attack.
I can inform you, Brett, that moments ago, we also got the chief intelligence officer and his deputy in Tehran, because we're now over the skies of Tehran. Our pilots, our brave pilots, are over the skies of Tehran, and we're targeting military sites, nuclear sites. Well, we've certainly done quite a bit. We've destroyed the main facility in Natanz. That's the main enrichment facility.
Meanwhile, Iran's official news agency IRNA also confirmed the deaths, quoting a statement from the Revolutionary Guards that said 3 intelligence generals, Mohammad Kazemi, Hassan Mohaqiq and Mohsen Bagheri, had been killed. The Israel Defense Forces also reported that the strikes hit a production site for components of aerial defense systems belonging to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. According to the IDF, the strikes destroyed infrastructure belonging to the Quds Force, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Iranian military in Tehran. President Donald Trump said on Sunday that he hopes Israel and Iran can broker a deal, but said sometimes countries have to fight it out first. Talking to reporters as he left for the G7 summit in Canada, Trump said the U.S. will continue to support the defense of Israel, but declined to say if he asked the U.S. ally to pause strikes on Iran. Trump also rejected a plan by Israel to kill Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
During an interview with Fox News, Netanyahu did not directly confirm or deny a report that Trump had vetoed a plan to kill the Ayatollah. World leaders have intensified calls for diplomatic talks to de-escalate the escalating tensions between Israel and Iran. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, after speaking with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, reiterated Europe's commitment to peace, stability and diplomatic efforts leading to de-escalation. She also voiced strong concern over Iran's nuclear program, stating Iran can never acquire a nuclear weapon. There is an urgent need for a negotiated solution. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan welcomed Trump's call for Israel and Iran to make a deal. Erdogan stressed the irreversible economic, civilian damage for both sides and emphasized the necessity for de-escalation. The Indian government confirmed it's working diligently to move some of its Indian students to safer places within Iran. Ministry of External Affairs said in a statement that the Indian embassy in Tehran is continuously monitoring the security situation and engaging Indian students in Iran to ensure their safety. Earlier, advisories urged all Indian nationals and persons of Indian origin to remain vigilant. My colleague Akshay Dongre now joins us from Delhi. Akshay, Israel and Iran attacks continue. Do you see signs of further escalation?
Well, Munmun, if one thing that is quite clear as far as this conflict is concerned is that this may lead to unprecedented escalation between the two countries. And now the reason is very, very clear, because first time the kind of targeting that has been done by Israeli Defense Forces to eliminate the entire top leadership, be it the military or the government level, that Israel has carried out attacks on targeting the top military leadership. They have asked for people to, take up arms against the government, lead to some sort of a revolution, which hasn't happened yet. But the kind of hostilities that remains between the two countries, it seems that the situation is only escalating to a full-blown war, which it already has started. The kind of attacks that are taking place between the two countries, and the kind of claims that are coming in from both the sides of taking this matter to the very end. So the situation remains very tense, even not only in Iran but also in Israel. Cities like Tel Aviv have been under constant attack and attacks from drones and missiles. However, most of them have been intercepted. Whereas in Iran, many of the attacks that have been carried out have been successful, and which has led to about 200 people dead. As soon as since the hostilities have started, whereas the number in Israel is somewhere around 14. So the situation can go bad very soon, and there is no predicting that what kind of situation may escalate out of this. More spillover, more allies coming in from both the sides. If the US will step in, whether there will be a deal or no deal. But as of now, the situation is all pointing towards a very, very serious escalation, which will have ramification not only for the region but for the rest of the world.
Right, Akshay. Also, Indian students in Iran are being moved to safer places. Could you tell us more about the measures being taken by India to keep Indians in Iran out of harm's way?
Well, the students are being taken to safer locations. Advisories have been issued. The kind of messages that are coming in from the Indian embassy in Tehran is also calling for people to stay in close coordination with the embassy officials and do not venture out, unless there is an emergency. Also, as far as the Indians who are now residents there are concerned, they are also in touch with the Indian embassy along with the diaspora. That is also working together, that is being supported by the embassy staff and embassy officials as well, as far as the security and safety of those people is concerned. But this situation is getting fast out of hand, and while students were the first priority, other groups of civilians, especially the Indian citizens who are living there, whenever they ask for help, the embassy staff remains on standby to attend to all the needs that may arise amid this emergency situation.
We'll leave it at that. Akshay Dongre reporting on the Iran-Israel hostilities and the efforts being put by the Indian government to ensure the safety of Indians, including Indian students in Iran. French President Emmanuel Macron warned that Greenland is not to be sold nor to be taken during his official visit to the autonomous Danish territory coveted by President Trump. Macron visited a Danish military frigate and surveyed the impact of climate change in a Greenlandic glacier with scientists from a climate research center. Macron strongly opposed Donald Trump's idea of taking over Greenland. In a press conference alongside Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen and Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen, Macron said the island was threatened by predatory ambition and that its situation was a wake-up call for all Europeans. Macron is the first foreign leader to visit Greenland since Trump's explicit threats to get the island, and was invited by the Prime Ministers of Greenland and Denmark. Anger mounted over the killing of dozens of people by gunmen in Nigeria after gunmen attacked the village of Yelewata on Friday night in a region that has seen a surge in violence amid clashes. Police fired tear gas to break up a protest by thousands of people, witnesses said, as demonstrators called on the state's governor to act swiftly to halt the cycle of violence. Attacks in the region, part of what is known as the Central Belt of Nigeria, are often motivated by religious or ethnic differences. 2 weeks ago, gunmen killed 25 people in 2 attacks in Benue State. More than 150 people were killed in massacres across Plateau and Benue states in April. Residents took to the streets of Lisbon to voice their concerns over the negative impacts of over-tourism on their daily lives. Protesters also marched through central Lisbon, passing by iconic landmarks and tourist shops to draw attention to the commercialization of public spaces. The demonstration was part of a broader movement coordinated by the Southern European Network Against Touristification, aiming to raise awareness about the adverse effects of unchecked tourism on local communities. Similar protests took place in other southern European cities on the same day, including Barcelona and Mallorca, as part of a coordinated effort to address the challenges posed by mass tourism. In the latest update in Minnesota lawmaker shootings, the gunman who killed a Democratic state lawmaker and injured another in Minnesota was apprehended late on Sunday, according to a report. Boelter is accused of killing State Representative Melissa Hartman, a prominent Democrat in the Minnesota House, and her husband Mark at their Brooklyn Park home early on Saturday. Meanwhile, a memorial for a slain lawmaker is set up on the steps of the Minnesota State Capitol as the massive manhunt for the gunman enters its second day. Former Democratic House Speaker Melissa Hartman and her husband Mark were killed in their Brooklyn Park home early on Saturday in the northern Minneapolis suburbs. Panamanian police moved to reopen roads in Bocas del Toro after a month-long protest over pension reforms. While workers from Chiquita brands agreed to end their strike, clashes erupted as some residents resisted the police intervention. Authorities detained 15 people for disrupting public order during the roadblock clearance. The province bordering Costa Rica has faced ongoing unrest, but efforts to restore normalcy continue as officials push for dialogue and resolution. A 6.1 magnitude earthquake struck Peru on Sunday, killing one person and triggering landslides. Callao, a port city adjacent to the capital Lima, was the epicenter of the quake. The earthquake in Peru spanned over 30 kilometers, according to the National Seismological Center of Peru. Officials stated that the tremor did not generate a tsunami warning. One person died due to the collapsing wall, while 5 others sustained injuries. Peruvian President Dina Boluarte urged said citizens to remain calm while ruling out the possibility of a tsunami along the country's Pacific coastline. Notably, Peru experiences an average of at least 100 detectable earthquakes every year, with the last major one occurring in 2021 in the Amazon region that had measured 7.5 on the Richter scale. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Asian markets and oil prices climb to a new high as the new conflict between Israel and Iran show no signs of cooling. Armand Duplantis achieves career-defining milestone in Stockholm Diamond League. And we'll bring you a special report on how yoga reflects India's ability to inspire global harmony through knowledge, tradition and timeless values.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Business news now. Asian markets kept their nerve on Monday and oil prices climbed as the conflict between Israel and Iran showed no signs of cooling, adding geopolitical uncertainty to the world's economic troubles in a week packed with central bank meetings. The escalation came as a group of 7 leaders were gathering in Canada with US President Donald Trump's tariffs already straining ties. Yet there was no sign of panic among investors, with currency markets calm and Wall Street stock futures steadying after an early dip. Oil did add 2% to last week's 13% surge. in an inflationary pulse that, if sustained, should make the Federal Reserve even less likely to cut interest rates when it meets on Wednesday. In currency markets, the dollar firmed 0.3% on the Japanese yen, while the euro dipped 0.1%. The spike in oil prices is a negative for the yen and euro at the margin, as both Japan and the EU are major importers of energy, while the United States is a net exporter. Time now for sports action. Sweden's Armand Duplantis soared 6.28 meters to break the world pole vault record for the 12th time and set a new world best mark at the Diamond League event in Stockholm. The American-born double Olympic champion improved on his previous record by 1 centimeter on his first attempt, making the most of the perfect conditions to delight the home crowd. Just moments later, the 25-year-old once again made it look easy and soared to another world record as the stadium exploded in jubilation. Duplantis sprinted from the landing mat, tearing off his singlet to celebrate his first world record set on the Swedish soil. India midfielder Manpreet Singh on Sunday became the only second Indian hockey player to don the international cap for the 400th time. Manpreet achieved the milestone when he took the field for the Hockey Pro League match against Australia, adding his name to an elite list of legends who have graced the world stage with unwavering consistency and heart. The 33-year-old midfielder from Punjab, a place synonymous with Indian hockey folklore, now stands as the second highest capped Indian men's player of all time, behind only former captain and current Hockey India president Dilip Turkey, who has 412 caps. Manpreet received a guard of honour and a signed shirt from the Australian squad after the match ended in a 2-3 defeat for India. The 27th National Deaf Senior Wrestling and Karate Championship wrapped up in North Indian city of Kanpur on Sunday. The closing ceremony was graced by Dr. Sandeep Pandey, Principal Vipin Kaushik, Head of Sports Department Vipin Parmar and other dignitaries. Maharashtra topped the points table with an impressive 54 points, followed by Haryana in second place with 43 points. Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh secured third and fourth positions, each with 31 points. As we move closer towards the 11th edition of International Yoga Day, it's now time to take a look at this report that brings you a glimpse of how yoga reflects India's ability to inspire global harmony through knowledge, tradition and timeless values. Not only this, as a symbol of India's soft power, yoga is transcending borders and cultures, promoting peace, wellness and unity.
2014 में जब यूएन जनरल असेंबली में योग दिवस का प्रस्ताव आया तो रिकॉर्ड देशों ने इसे समर्थन दिया था। तब से लेकर आज तक अंतर्राष्ट्रीय योग दिवस के जरिए योग एक वैश्विक आंदोलन बन गया है।
India's ancient civilization has always stood for knowledge, wellness and harmony. From the discovery of zero to contributions in astronomy, surgery and philosophy, India has enriched the world for centuries. And among India's greatest gifts to the world is yoga. More than physical exercise, yoga is a way of life, offering mental clarity, emotional stability and spiritual peace. Derived from the Sanskrit root yuj, meaning to unite, yoga integrates body, mind and spirit. The United Nations General Assembly declared June the 21st as International Day of Yoga on the 11th of December back in the year 2014 as a result of relentless efforts of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, recognizing yoga's holistic approach to health and balance in life. And this marked a global shift towards preventive healthcare rooted in India's ancient wisdom. Since its inception in 2015, International Yoga Day has grown into one of the world's largest health movements, setting historic milestones each year. IFI Day or International Yoga Day 2024 saw greater engagement with approximately 24.53 crore participants. Outreach was extended through community radio, schools, Anganwadi centers, and government departments. Social media engagement reached over 3.48 crore people, while Indian embassies and institutions connected with more than 5.45 lakh individuals globally. These milestones reaffirm yoga's role as a global bridge for wellness and unity. India is sharing yoga with the world in many ways. It has set up Ayush chairs in universities abroad and runs workshops through Indian embassies. Digital campaigns and apps like Vibreak and digital infrastructure for knowledge sharing or Diksha help people include yoga in their daily lives, especially at work and school. Yoga is also a big part of government's mental health support for students. Through the Manodarpan program, yoga is combined with counseling to help students feel better. Since 2020, yoga sessions have been shown on 12 TV channels for children from class 1st to 12th. Not only this, yoga's popularity is creating new jobs and businesses too. More people are visiting places like Rishikesh, Kashi and Kerala to learn yoga. Airports, hotels and wellness centers now offer yoga facilities across India. As a symbol of India's soft power, yoga transcends borders and cultures, promoting peace, wellness and unity. It reflects India's ability to inspire global harmony through knowledge, tradition and timeless values. Deepika Mehta's report for DD India.
That's it then in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Munmun Bhattacharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.